Thank you, and welcome to our panel, The Rise of Machine Customers. First of all, to get into the topic, we would like to introduce ourselves. Teresa, would you like to start?
Kick it off? Sure. I'm Teresa Kane. I'm with TreviPay, and we are a global invoicing and billing system based in the United States. We're based in Kansas City. I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot about the Chiefs, so that's the area that we're at. And I'm a director over product, user experience, and design, and I'm looking forward to talking about a little bit about TreviPay, what we do. We process around 7 billion in transactions a year in the automotive, retail, and several other spaces.
Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm a CDO at Stauf. Stauf is a classical family-owned German-based manufacturer in the B2B sector. We produce everything around hydraulics for mobile machines, for brands like Caterpillar. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Philip. I'm with MHP now for 2 years. I'm responsible for customer and service platforms, and maybe quite interesting, before I was a long time in the agricultural industry, agricultural machinery, and there, of course, I had a lot to do with connected machines and new business models, where we quite early made lots of experiences with connecting machines and the potential you can do. And of course, today we would like to talk about maybe the next big thing in commerce or in general. My experience is we are talking now a very long time about connecting things, connecting devices, and very often, if you look to the reality as of today, even today, maybe we have many more things connected than 10 years ago, of course. But are there really new business models, or is there any commerce with connected machines at the moment? Is that already reality? And we would like to discuss with you what will come up, hopefully, or maybe in the next years. So, to give you a short introduction, some research about the topic. There's, of course, a lot of research that, for example, by 2027, there's an estimate of 50% of all online transactions will be made by autonomous machine customers. So quite a lot. And maybe if you look to the reality today in 2024, it's much less. 13 billion of connected devices we have, so I would have assumed it must be more. If I look to my home, for example, I guess I'm at least above average in having connected devices. When you look to smart home and all that, there's a potential of 30, it's a big number, 30 trillion US dollars that machine customers will directly be involved when it comes to revenue by 2030. So, a big amount. And 25% of increase in revenue due to streamlined operations is estimated in business who leverage machine customers in automation and processes. So, interesting number. So, first question to you. When we talk about machine customers, how do you define machine customers, and what's really the difference to human customers?
Yeah, so from a TreviPay standpoint, we're already machine to machine. So we are automating a lot of processes for our clients, all the way from the transaction to the payment. That's all machine to machine. So the key differentiator for me, when we define a customer, that's someone that has a credit score. So a machine can't really come in and make a purchase without already having been a customer and already gone through an onboarding process. So that's something that's a huge differentiator in understanding when is it okay for a customer to make a purchase versus a machine, and who's behind that transaction.
I think from a time perspective, we can also differentiate it. So short term, I think we mainly talk about auto replenishment of like spare parts of a machine, yeah, who has a demand for it or what it's broken. I think the long term implication it can be is way more interesting, because we would talk about fully rationalized decision making processes, which vendor, yeah, and then it's not only about price availability. You can make the decision based on an unlimited data set, yeah, taking into consideration the past reliability, even maybe geopolitical indications. So I think that's going to be very interesting for most B2B companies to be prepared for that.
For me also, a big difference. We're, as a consulting company, for example, we are having lots of projects today and with our customers who invest in brand experience, in emotions, in empathy, to bind customers to their products. And this is, to my mind, of course, a very big difference. Of course, a machine customer is without any emotions. So from the point of view of our customers who serve their customers, there is the number of touch points maybe in future is much lower. And the investments in experience, in marketing is in future totally different. This will certainly change if we see the amount which will come up with those customers. Mark, you were already mentioning examples. What are typical examples and use cases we're going to see? What do you think?
Yeah, I think what, of course, even by now is like total commodities, like the order to cash process, yeah, where you like receive the order fully automated. You get like the invoice and the delivery note to the customer. When we talk about when AI kicks in, yeah, the use cases that we also see like chatbots. Yeah, I always say, I mean, the company is a legacy company. It's in place for almost 80 years. So basically, every technical question about our product has been asked. Yeah, there's no reason why like customer service should rethink the answer anytime. So we have all in that data, and AI really helps to come up with the right questions and then immediately.
When we talk about AI, is AI like the enabler of machine customers? Is like the foundation of all technologies that makes it happen, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So, as someone that leads a product, user experience, and design team, if we're not building products to attract a customer, how do we build a product to attract a machine? You don't, right? So to me, that's really, a risk of displacement for the great experiences that we're really creating to drive that transactional growth on marketplaces or in the e-commerce space in general. But what I do think is going to increase with that is a significant increase in loyalty programs. So especially in the automotive place at TreviPay, we have actually built a number of loyalty programs for a lot of our OEMs and customers also on the retail side. And a lot of that is driven to be able to create that prediction of that transaction and volume, creating predictions of when fleets or cars are going to be purchased over time. So that's really where I see, that's how you counteract the machine, right? Is how do you continue to build the loyalty program that would pass on from a customer that's making a purchase to a machine in that process of automation.
Okay. With prediction of up to 20% of revenue share with machine customers, what industries do you think will be affected first, and maybe also in the long run, what will happen? Is it automotive? Is it classical machinery? What will it be? What do you think?
I mean, obviously it will be like an evolution. It will happen in steps. But I think really the aftermarket, the MRO, so maintenance, repair operations, so basically everywhere where a machine needs a spare part or let's say needs to have an upgrade, there's no reason why, like with today's technology, a human being should trigger that order. Yeah, why not follow it on the rule base? Make the machine do that decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I like to shift the question a little bit and say, what industry will benefit the most from it, right? And I think in the automotive space in particular, the automotive space is still really behind the retail space. So I've got a lot of clients that are still really progressing towards automation. And I think, with the COVID-19 pandemic that made a lot of changes for organizations, e-commerce sites were popping up all over the place with marketplaces selling parts. And that's something that has continued on, but I think where the benefit really becomes is there is still a lot of manual ordering and a lot of white glove service that's happening in person and is not happening on the commerce side. So I think AI and automation will continue to enhance those experiences and help drive them further into e-commerce from in-person experiences.
Um, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are talking now about connected cars, connected things, connected machines for almost a decade now. No? We had lots of digital transformation programs, lots of budget invested in things like that. And Boris was mentioning it this morning also. No? If you had some innovation topic, it was almost no problem to get budget to that. What or why do you think we are still not there, as you were mentioning, automotive industry, because they are working on that. What are the challenges, and why is it not there?
Yeah, I think, from the TreviPay side of things, we're really working on a seamless payment experience, right? So really the future, would be a fleet truck, being able to drive up, leave their truck, get their coffee, get a currywurst, because I had that for lunch, be able to do that and not do anything else, right? Not have to take out a phone and pay, not have to pay with a credit card. So those are the things and experiences that haven't really happened yet. There's a lot of experiences that are just being done the way they've always have been done. And so that in-person experience is almost a white glove experience that certain industries are used to, and it's also been a profitable one. So why change something that's not broken? And that's really the struggle, right, is what's the value proposition of changing to something that's more automative or to AI?
Yeah, I would say when I entered like the digital industry and I went to many conferences, and I thought, oh, disruption everywhere. We're gonna die tomorrow. We need to innovate, and we have to be very, very fast in that. Today, I see it a little bit more relaxed. I shouldn't or wouldn't say that we can lean back as a company. However, the change in B2B at least seems to be not that fast as in B2C. And I really believe that's down to the fact that people are not really taking risk in B2B because it's not their own money. It's not their own money it's their own money when they spend it in B2C. However, I think, of course, you need to be prepared. And we talk about a lot in our macroeconomic discussions about the shortage of labor. So I really think that will be an accelerator because we simply need to automate such processes. And I think it's still a huge chance because you can really beat the competition if you build up that, let's say, internal knowledge to adapting fast to such trends.
I love that he just said that because I think a lot of what we're seeing is customers in B2B are now expecting the same experiences that they get in B2B, and especially if you look at the generational shift, right? You have baby boomers, moving out of the market. You have millennials. You have Gen Z. You have Gen Alpha. Those are going to be foundational changes for these industries that really create a shift and create the demand to have those B2C-like experiences.
Absolutely. I had the same experience. I was a chief digital officer with Klaas, like I think it's almost 10 years ago, and we were of course always making some panic and talking about the typical disruption. And as we are seeing now, in the last 10 years, just the business went up and up and up, and it got more and more difficult. Everyone in our industry, in the manufacturing and automotive industry, was very successful. Probably in the last 15 years, it was just going up. And it was very hard to see the disruption and what's really happening. So, and then if you are trying to change things in a very successful system, it's getting hard to to change this running system. Of course, there is, if you have a quite new car, you're going to see that you probably going to have some apps in your pocket where you can open and close your car and maybe use the horn, some simple use cases. So there is connectivity, we all see that, but of course it's not so many commerce use cases at the moment. I know I always give one example. There's Mercedes Fuel and Pay, where the car detects at the gas station that I can pay with my car and don't need to go in anymore. So this is for me a typical use case when we talk about automotive industry in the B2C area. But of course, if we get creative, there are many more use cases, especially in the B2B environment, which is obviously also the quite bigger market when it comes to transactional volume we have. No? So I think now, as we're maybe have some challenging times at the moment, I think, and we see more competition from Asia, from the US, especially in the automotive industry, but also in machinery. The machines, construction machines, whatever, are getting better and better, and it's almost no difference between, or very often between, European, German machines and Asian machines, and the Asian ones are much cheaper. We have to think about special services, better customer experience, and I think there, machine customers is one of the major things which need to improve. What changes in the sales process or in the customer journey do you see? I mean, can we talk about a customer journey in future? Is there real, or is it a machine journey? What changes do you see there?
I think for me the key point is here: where's the decision made that this vendor gets the transaction? So we usually in the B2B industry always try not to talk, let's say, in the first to the purchasing officer, but start really in the beginning of the design phase of the machine or whatever. Yeah? And so that will be interesting to see where is that rule set be implemented on which the part will be, let's say, ordered. So I would say really that the sales team needs to find that out, because it's simply not implemented yet, but we need to really cover that.
I think, from the TreviPay side, we're already, seeing a lot of the change, right? So we're auto decisioning virtually. We're also really seeing a lot of requests for, subscription. So a subscription would be the ability to create, that automation, that auto purchasing over time, and that's something that we are continuing to see more and more. But I think, the problem I think I mentioned earlier, a machine doesn't have a credit score, right? So when it comes to what we do with net terms or trade credit, how do you really get that approval for a machine? The onboarding process is going to take time, and that's going to have to be tied to a customer, tied to a company in order to get to a machine to be able to purchase over time.
I always have in mind when you, for example, in the B2B business, when you're selling machines, the number of touch points or how many times you get in personal touch with the customer is dramatically reducing, and so it has to be on point. When you sell a machine at the beginning, you might also define and afterwards the machine orders the spare parts themselves. You define prices upfront, and as of today, maybe you have lots of service technicians and after-sales people who talk to you as a customer, which might not happen so many times before. I think so. The role of a salesperson will be much more important. Has to be much more personal and point at that time when you sell the machine, because afterwards lots of things will be done just with automation. So it's going to be interesting how the sales process itself will change, and maybe many things will have to negotiate it really upfront at the beginning. Yeah. What risks do you see when you talk about AI? Of course, no conference without AI, no discussion without AI, and it's one of the major challenging and changing things we are facing today. What risks do you see when we integrate AI in commerce, when we have more automation and almost autonomous machine customers?
Fraud, in one word. That's the biggest risk. And, we have an entire team dedicated to credit and risk. And we thought, there's risk with humans. There's already risk happening now with AI. And if you think of, what can be done with AI with risk, right? So risk and fraud. AI could automatically create a company, automatically apply for credit, impersonating humans, and that's something that's very risky when you're already dealing that from an e-commerce standpoint and you're seeing that human fraud already happening. So how do you really keep tabs of control on AI in addition to customer and making sure that you're not, approving something that is fraudulent?
Yeah, I think from an IT security point of view, of course, it is let's say, a big issue to solve. We are not then talking to thousands of customers today, EDI connections, for example, but we talk about basically millions of different machines calling our systems and making transactions. So this is a topic. The other thing is, I think, trust. Especially in the B2B industry, the people have to really trust the process. They're avoiding risk. So I think maybe to make people familiar with it, to offer like a full service package with such a machine, that the reordering process is handled by the manufacturer of the machine, could be a good, let's say, first step to get people to use to that technology.
If you look to your customers or to your own organization, or if I look to my customers or our customers from MHP, do you think the organizations are ready for the age of machine customers, or what steps need to be done technically and maybe also organization process-wise?
I think, let's face it, the situation in a lot of B2B industry is like still quite, not that sophisticated when it comes to IT knowledge, especially in the sales teams, because they learned when they started like decades ago, they went with a catalog like to the customer and they sold parts, basically. And then they found out, okay, one component is not enough. So basically every manufacturer for spare parts and said, we now offer a system. So they kind of enlarged their basket. Then they thought, okay, a system is not enough. We need to add like services. So they started with Kanban, logistics services, EDI, so all full order to cash processes. But now even that IT sector, to selling IT services and clarifying all of that and explaining what the benefits are, this is, I think, the huge change in the sales team which is needed. It's not easy, but we have to do it in order to keep up with the market.
And I think about it as opportunity, right? So the opportunity for machine customers to be automatically purchasing is the opportunity to increase your revenue significantly, right? So huge opportunity there, but I do think some things that need to be in place are the ability to track when a machine versus a customer is purchasing. And that's something similar to tracking, whether you have in-person versus a marketplace purchase. There probably needs to be some measures in place to account for machine purchases and to be able to go through that process.
Okay. Yeah, we're making the same experience. I think organizations, of course, still need to change and adopt the new technologies and not stay on the older legacy systems, because I'm very convinced that with only legacy and legacy systems, we're going to not proceed into that area of machine customers. We need to adopt, and what I'm experiencing lots of, especially in those times, in the last months, is that lots of customers keep their old technologies because argumenting they're having the people on board who know maybe SAP, for example. We don't want to change in these times, and maybe this is, it can be an answer for that, but maybe this is not only the right answer, and you need to go ahead and adopt new technology, especially in the AI environment. And second thing is organization, that you cannot keep in parallel always a new organization with new business models and new business transactions, and at the same time also keeping the old organization in place. Of course, then you do not profit from automated systems. Okay, so what do you expect to be the next big thing in AI automation if you look to the next 5 years? What do you think?
So I think that, we talked a little bit about contactless payments. I see it really being a contactless experience for getting approval, for a line of credit like net terms or trade credit. And, what that could mean is when you go to apply for net terms or trade credit with someone like TreviPay, you might think you're talking to a human, but in fact, you're talking to AI. So this is something that really is progressing, and that would allow you to have that white glove service experience, but also allow you to automate it so that your teams could focus on other things that are critical to the organizational success.
Yeah, I would say in the customer area of customer service, we will see a lot more, let's say, a fully automated communication, because we're facing now customers that expect instant answers. I also think that when we talk about, let's say, classical organizations, that we will see, like in the finance department, yeah, there's no reason why that the invoice should be booked manually. The same with really triggering the order. So I think these will be short-term implications which we will see quite soon. Yeah.
Okay. And quite interesting. Yesterday, I've been to another conference here in Berlin from a conversational AI platform. They're focusing on mainly on after sales and services, and they are launching a new product today. And out of that, what I saw, I think everybody of us will have his personal AI assistant who makes our daily life easier in making appointments for restaurants, bookings, whatever, for travel. This will be in 5 years' time completely normal. And this, at the same time, I'm also convinced that this will be transferred to the B2B area also, that machines are the AI assistants in after sales and service, that this will be really the new normal in 5 years' time. So, yeah. And looking beyond 2030, last question, how do you see the relation between humans and AI?
Yeah, so I think really, if you think about it, I've got a background in NLP, natural language processing. So, I look at it as, the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning. So, together over time, as we continue to use AI and we build technologies around that, we'll get better. So that's something that I think is going to continue to develop. I think, the number of AI startups that have launched, since ChatGPT, has been tenfold. So I think that we'll continue to get better over time. We'll also be able to create better experiences for customers through that partnership.
Yeah, I really think that, let's say, it will be absolutely a common and commodity to have like a virtual assistant who really helps you with your daily work, due also to the shortage of labor. And I mean, what that means for the companies is also clear. Yeah? That we really need to future-proof our e-commerce technologies. Yeah, with the legacy shop system, I think it will be really hard to achieve it, because I mean, currently in B2B. Desktop is still dominant, in our case up to 70%, but I'm pretty sure that will change to voice as one potential use case. Yeah, and we talk about APIs, that you really need to make sure that you are able to offer like a seamless connection to, that you even can connect to machine customers.
I also learned yesterday that voice, especially in the younger generation, maybe I'm too old, is the most popular interface, where the expectation is that it will be the dominant interface in future. Quite interesting, because I always like to type maybe, and the voice, where? Yeah. But yeah, so exciting times ahead of us. So we have 5 minutes left. Are there any questions in the audience? I cannot see anything. We're good. So we had many slides with all the questions we were answering, but I'm gonna through that. So thank you very much for this panel.